Okay, so Bizmod Consulting offers three type of services. The one is obviously consulting, the other is resourcing, and the last one is creative services. Under the consulting side, we mostly do projects, and those projects would be system implementation or business projects or more governance related projects. And on the creative side, it's done to support the projects, so usually campaigns or infographics. And then the resourcing side deals with three types of resources that we also use in our projects, and those would be project managers, change managers, and business analysts. And I don't think the idea of the company was, it sort of popped out of nowhere and we started it with, oh, that's a good plan. It morphed. The founders of the company and the current shareholders actually all worked together on a project and a system implementation project in those different disciplines. And that's where we met each other and realized that when we work together, something really magic happens. It's when you bring those three skill sets together, and it's all women. So it's woman-owned, woman-managed. And yes, that's 20 years down the road and we're still together. I think in terms of being a consulting firm, the vision is to leave people better off. Now, that sounds a bit funny. It's not these aspirational things of being the biggest and the smartest in the world. If you have to think about what gets you out of bed when things are really difficult in the company, then the thought of leaving those that deal and come into contact with the company better off is actually the thing that makes us tick. And those could be clients, it could be your own employees, it could be other stakeholders, your boards, it could be the wider community. But I think for the current directors, that very definitely is the thing. Leaving people better off. You're not there to cause harm or use or abuse. You're actually there to make a positive contribution. Okay, yes, so it is definitely 2 years down the line, and I think we have COVID to thank for a totally new way of working and thinking about work in general. So if you run a consulting firm, in our case, we do that virtually and virtually only. A lot of our teams are all over the country with different clients, but different things come into play. And I think they differ depending on the type of resource. So if you are part of an existing team and you just had to learn a new way of working, then you face different kind of challenges. Your challenges sort of sit on connectivity and the technology issue, and then on the basic hygiene of how do you do this virtual working thing properly. And the hygiene factors is an interesting one to keep in mind. You would think 2 years down the line that people have this down pat, but there are still basics in play. Like, if it is a virtual meeting, you still need to be on time. If it is a virtual meeting, you still need to prep. If you engage with a team virtually, you still need to make time for connectivity. So, for connection with your team members. But I think it is totally different challenges. And that is what I see when we place consultants with new clients on new pieces of work, on new projects. If it is a new consultant, or imagine it is a new person starting, this can actually be generalized. If it's a new person starting at a new organization in a new team, those are the guys that battle most when it comes to virtual working. I think part of that battle is because the culture of the organization is not so explicit. Now imagine previously you went into your new prospective employer's offices, and those offices gave you an extremely good sense of what the company is about, because the artifacts, the layout, what they put up on the wall, the color scheme, all of those things sort of give you a very tangible sense of this is what is important in this company and this is how they do things. Now, if it's only virtual, then all of that, how can I say, messaging is just missing to give you guardrails for, this is how things are done in this organization. So the cultural integration aspect is what most guys battle with. How do things work here? And I think a lot of organizations, or if you do projects for clients, your client organization don't necessarily have the induction of temporary resources in a virtual setting down pat. They don't, they assume that, or the mode out of which they operate is this is a permanent people and they understand how things work here because they themselves are like that. But if you go into a company, the sense of, okay, think about almost like a Maslow hierarchy, and at the bottom is your technical issues and your connectivity. And then the next level up from that would be things like the task at hand. Do you understand what your task is and how you need to do it? And then the next level up from that would be things like your hygiene factors. How do you engage in a virtual setting? And the next level up from that would be things like your team. How do you operate, truly operate as a team if it is wider, if there's a wider requirement for connection with people to deliver something greater than that, just the specific task assigned to you. And client organizations in our case don't necessarily understand that some kind of induction over a longer period of time is required to help people to be productive in a virtual setting. Ooh, that is a big one. I think, look, it's brought quite a lot of challenges. There's quite a specific way of working and an order of working, in the sense that this is how we've done things many, many years. So it's an entrenched way of operating. It was very physical. It was things where boundaries and power bases and politics it played out in a visual sphere, in a physical proximity. So for me, a lot of the advantages of working virtually, and I see it with our consultants as well, it does allow for a bit of work-life balance in a different way. It frees up some time. But that work-life balance obviously requires some serious boundaries. I see with a lot of the consultants, if a guy's boundaries are not properly in place, then they can overwork like mad. It seems to be the people with the house and the kids and the dog that needs a walk that are forced to bring in some balance. But it's the guys that are AAA type personalities and they live alone, those guys just work. So although it allows for work-life balance, the onus is on the person to have the, how can I say, the boundaries in place. And those boundaries relate to task, and they relate to your physical environment, and they also relate to time. So the first part is the work-life balance aspect. The second part for me is as a productivity aspect. You do see a lot more hours, a lot actually being done. And then you realize when you go to an office 5 days a week, there's a lot of coffee breaks and smoke breaks, and time being, and I want to call it respectfully, wasted, because it's not actually wasted, on activities that does not necessarily relate to the primary task that you have to fulfill. But it's exactly those incidental things which is also a problem. Now you don't have those quick chats with Joe at the water cooler that tells you about this new application that they're using in their department. So all those incidental touch points are missing. And that's where we find some of the biggest issues with virtual working is some things just don't work well virtually. And those would be really, really difficult conversations that has an element of conflict in it. And it would also be things like collaboration and innovation and having to come up with a new concept. Something happens in a team when people are physically together, and it is as if you're new to a team, very difficult to sort of, can I say, feed off the energy that people working well together brings when they are physically together. I think because Bizmod is woman-owned and woman-run, the emphasis that we place on nurturing, and I know nurturing is not necessarily a value that appears on all corporate value statements, but for us, being female is the advantage. Your connection point is not, how can I say, always primary around the task. It's a lot more about, well, how are the people and how are they doing? Because you realize that when your people are not well, the task will not be done well. So for us, perhaps it's a more intuitive way of dealing with employees, but in some cases it's also more proactive and planned. And in Bizmod, we realize that the culture that you build is transferred through shared experiences. So almost like a proactive approach to create those shared experience. And in a virtual setting, that means those Bizmod work a day away from home type setups that we organize for our people. So a variety of touch points to break the virtualness, but also realizing that connection has to be built in proactively. And it's also a task. Your task is, as a leader, to connect with your employees on a personal level as well.